Hello everybody, and welcome to the next episode of An Ordinary King. I am your host, Kieran King. Long time no here. I know I've been radio silent for a few months now, but 2020 has kicked in and I'm raring to go, hence this episode. Before I get into the guest for today, I just have a tiny bit of housekeeping coming up. So I am heading to Adelaide very shortly. Very fortunate to be part of a non-for-profit organisation called Roses in the Ocean, and these guys exist pretty much to change the way that suicide is spoken about and understood and help prevention, just by empowering people to talk about their experiences and share their stories. So I'll be heading up there with a small team to co-host the podcast there, which they have which is called Roses Radio Podcast, which is available on iTunes. I will leave a link in the description. Check it out. And of course, it should need to be said, but of course, just in case, if you're going through anything or you know someone going through anything, there's a ton of organizations you can reach out to Beyond Blue, Family, Friends, Roses in the Ocean. Just Google it. I'll leave some links in the description below as well. And stay kind to each other and be good to yourself. Right. Moving on to today's episode. I have, a hell of a person on today. Her name is Jenna Hutchison, and I'm very stoked and privileged to have her on. She was hell of fun. And she is the legitimate real deal. She is a hell of an achiever. She's the CEO of Hutch, which is a clothing line and online store, she's just closed down the physical store and she's purely gone online now. As well as being the co-founder and CEO of a non-for-profit called A Cleaner Coast, which I've volunteered for a couple of times, and they operate down here in Australia, Victoria, along the coastline, helping to keep the coast beautiful and pristine and free of rubbish, and doing their best bit to do small community cleanups, and I've just really enjoyed being a part of it, and grateful to have met Jenna, as well as some other amazing people along the way as well. So anyway, without further ado, please give it up. Here she is, Jenna Hutchison.
You shouldn't have said that.
Said what?
Like, I feel like we're recording. What laptop? What recording? I'm just talking to you normally with this huge microphone in front of me.
It's not that big.
It's massive.
It's bigger than mine.
Mine is bigger than yours.
Yeah, well, it is, genuinely.
Anyway.
Look at this. You're hiding. I want to be filming this.
I've got my hands over my face.
Yeah. Why?
I just don't do well with this. I'm scared that
So
you're
this is
gonna,
your second
say
podcast,
something.
though,
yes.
right? Okay. Second
podcast in 5 days, may I add.
And maybe a third as well.
There'll be a third, like in a few weeks.
Okay.
Definitely
so you've agreed
not
to
in
it?
1 week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed
Okay.
to it.
So you obviously feel comfortable enough to agree to it.
It's definitely opening like gates to something that I've never done before.
Yeah.
In terms of like not only the podcast itself, but like giving not only like my followers, but everyone some insight into probably things that they don't know about me.
Well, they're getting to hear you for probably the first time for some.
Yeah, like I don't show my face. I don't really talk on any sort of platform that someone could follow me on. So
yeah,
I guess that in itself is as scary as sitting
communicating with people
in front of a microphone
or communicating ideas to people.
Still mildly anonymous. But yeah, like giving away parts of myself that I wouldn't normally share with maybe close friends, let alone 50,000 followers. So
yeah,
I've been told that what I'm doing is great.
Yeah.
Like people have messaged me before and they've like literally said word for word, like you give away
just enough
these things that, you know, people can fall in love with, but you don't like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like whore your life out to
You're
people.
allowed to say that. There's no censorship here.
Like, you know, I feel like...
You're the second person I've sent questions to. No, you haven't. Did you read them at all? You didn't? You didn't even read them?
Yeah, I was going to mentally prepare myself, and I was like...
What happened? What happened, bro?
I don't know. I was just like painting and... No.
What happened? I sent you really important questions so that you wouldn't be tripped up.
Well, don't slam the book. Give them to me.
Okay. Well, so first of all, you've got a cup of tea and a cup of water there if you need it.
I need
And there is my jam jar. Keep cup, thank you very much. Before you judge me anymore.
Context of that story.
I'll open the book now, thanks. Okay, so first of all, I did want to talk to you. One of the main questions I want to ask you is, how are you finding life after closing your shop? Because that was a big ordeal. So I met you, so put in context for my listeners, I met you in the morning, so this is after Clinic Coast, and we caught up for coffee. And it was the day after, which is why you were a little bit seedy. It was the day after you closed your shop.
I would have been super seedy.
You were. Do you remember?
No. No, I do remember.
Yeah. You had a soy latte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have soy latte. It was a soy cap, by the way.
Soy cap.
Just context, yeah.
Context.
No.
We have to shut that door because that rain is going to grate the shit out of me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's the noise.
Is that enough?
Yeah, that'll do.
So, I feel like physically and mentally freed.
Sorry about the microphone. So from the shop, so you feel physically and mentally freed?
Yes.
How do you mean?
Well, like tying yourself like physically and mentally to a physical store.
Yeah.
4.5 something years is exhausting.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think I realized it throughout that time, but like now that it's sort of done in a sense, I didn't realize how like much that would make me feel relieved.
Yeah.
And it's not in a sense that I felt that what I was doing was wrong, or what I felt was doing, like I was doing was stressful in any way, but it definitely took its toll over the time. And
negatively?
Not negatively, but I always felt that there was something else that I should be doing.
Oh, okay. Versus just having the store.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you're pursuing at the moment, right?
Well, I'm not necessarily like giving off the fact that I've figured that out yet.
How do you mean? I'm not sure I follow.
Well, I'm not sure, like, I was like, cool, I'm going to close this store because I know exactly what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
But I just felt that, like, being tied to a physical store for that long and for potentially another 5 years was not what I was meant to be doing.
Right. Okay. So it definitely felt like a natural progression. Like you,
100%.
do you feel like you overstayed your welcome a little bit?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
You should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
It's not a regret though.
Not a regret at all. But I feel like I definitely put aspects of my life on hold or to the side because of that. Example, artwork, travel, candles, creativity.
I didn't know you did candles until recently, until we caught up.
I do lots of things. There's probably like something that will unfold that I also do that you don't know about.
It's okay. They're allowed to unfold. I even think that like some people feel, I don't know if this is a thing or if this is just a me thing, that people feel like they need to divulge, or they feel, not that they need to divulge everything, but there's an expectation that someone should know everything about you straight away. Like we should be carrying around little pamphlets or little questionnaire books.
Absolutely.
But I just think I think it's okay to find stuff out about people.
You knew nothing about me when you first met me.
That much.
I rocked up to, just to give everyone some context, I rocked up to a Cleaner Coast event late, a clean up, and you were like, oh, so what are you doing here? Like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, not much. Like, did not give any insight into the fact that I had started it or was running it, or the fact that he was here was because of me. But I just very quietly was like, not much.
Do you do that on purpose? Or is that a subconscious thing?
I definitely don't do it on purpose.
Right.
I don't know. I've never been one of those people that's been like, wait, look at me. Like, this is what... I don't know.
It's okay not to know.
But it's also not something that I've, like, taken and thrown off because... I don't know.
How do you mean by thrown off?
Like, the aspect of success or recognition.
Sure. Okay.
You know, because it's not something that I necessarily feel like I don't deserve, but it's not necessarily something that I feel like I need.
Okay.
I don't know how to put that really.
Exactly like you just did. I think it's just fine. To say that it's not something that you need, I think that's pretty clear. Then that's okay. You know. So life after the shop has been good. Then do you feel
so far so good. It's been 2 weeks.
It's been and so good 2 weeks. Have you had? Do you think?
No, it's been confusing. It's been insanely like a mental roller coaster.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like I have to like constantly be on this like fast roller coaster of life and progression and success and business and
one to the next.
Yeah,
straight away.
like constant.
Yeah, I feel that.
And not in a way that like that's what I feel like I should be doing. It's just how my life has been for the last 5 or so years.
Are you finding it hard to just slow down?
Absolutely.
Are you enjoying it though?
I'm enjoying it, but then there also comes like everyone else being like, "Oh my god, what are you doing now? Like, what are you doing?" Like,
oh, there's that expectation.
Yeah, that constant like. It comes back to this thing that I've spoken about before, where I constantly, for some reason, feel like I have to constantly present this like compelling version of myself all the time. And that's so contradicting to what we just spoke about.
At the pub, yeah.
Because I don't want necessarily to like scream at people about things that I'm doing, but the things that I do present to people, I for some reason feel like they have to be like constantly compelling.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't be like, oh, you know, yesterday I just laid in bed and did nothing. I don't know, it comes back to that like
you have to always be seen to be doing something.
Yeah, it comes back to that like judgment and I don't know where that comes from though.
It's okay. You don't have to.
I'm aware of it, which I guess is maybe a good thing, but
this isn't a therapy session.
It's
okay.
Step into my therapy.
We promised to keep this light.
How do I feel?
We did promise to keep this light and authentic and you know, because that's annoying. This guy. So again, more context. So across the street, they have a child grinding factory where they're just grinding up small children into meat pies.
Say that.
I just did.
You cannot.
Well, I can tell the truth.
No, that's absolutely not what's happening.
No, it's not. It's just animals. They're
You
grinding
have to
small
edit that
animals. It's a
out.
butcher's. So, and across there, they have all these endangered animals going across the meat grinder at the
Guys,
moment.
they're just building a house. This is
It doesn't.
We'll be talking about the coronavirus in a minute.
Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about.
Coronavirus?
If you want, because you said that you were finding that a little bit. I mean, I wasn't going to, but coronavirus.
I mean,
wasn't
we've touched on a lot of topics prior to recording this. So.
Yeah. You were worried that I was actually recording, but I should have.
At the pub?
Yeah.
Oh, we spoke about a lot at the pub.
We were there for like an hour and a half.
We spoke about like a lot of in-depth political...
Well, a lot of stuff I'm glad that we didn't talk... Oh, God, I'm glad we didn't record it. Because there's a lot of things that we talked about that I won't talk about on the forum because of public backlash.
Do you think that like rounds itself into like privacy?
No, I don't think it's privacy. I just think it's personal judgment. I'm as private as I am as a person. I'm in a public forum, so I have to expect some privacy to be gone. So no, I just don't think about it as being private or in private. I think there's aspects of me that are private versus that I open up as being public, right? Like people can go to my Instagram account. It's not a private account, and they can check out photos.
I feel like privacy in public forums these days, especially with any sort of significant following, holds a sense of currency. Like people,
I agree with that actually.
100%. Like find some sort of like privacy element that someone is giving away, and it.
Especially if there's something that they think that's there. So like if you hold, the more you hold back, the more people want.
100%.
Which is where your currency comes from.
100%.
Yeah, which I don't think is a bad thing. But it's an oxy because it can be perceived to be you're holding back on purpose or you just But anyway, regardless, but there's like we were saying in the pub, there's two versions of me. There's the private version, there's the public version. They sound fairly similar. They're not. They're quite different. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right, yeah, it has to be because that's the life I'm leading. So if it's not okay, I'm fucked. So, all right. So going back to this is my drawing, by the way. See, it's my life size.
I didn't read any of this.
Did you really not read any of this?
No. I told you that my messages weren't loading because of my.
But I sent the text through to you as well.
They didn't load.
Which is why you didn't get back to me.
Excuse.
Yeah, it does a little bit. It does sound a little bit like an excuse.
All right, we'll backpedal and
backpedal. Yeah, I won't edit this out.
Edit it out.
Okay, so I do want to know what you're finding exciting about life now that you're outside the shop and you're a bit more free. What are you finding exciting in life?
Oh my God, possibilities.
Okay, let's go.
So I feel like once, like quite literally, closing a physical door, turning around, there is so many more about to open.
Let's go into that.
Because, like, it just tied up so much of my time and my mental space and my physical energy.
It's a lot of work.
I almost sound quite relieved, and I think I am, that it's closed.
Yeah. You think you are or you are?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look relieved. You look, there's a nice big smile there.
Yeah. My shoulders. Like, I remember when the landlord sort of came in and we had the chat to them. My sister went out the back and she was like, come out. And I was like, how do you feel? And she was like, I don't know. How do you feel? And I was like, I feel so relieved. But there's this weird thing that you have to constantly maintain something because that's what you've committed to.
Yeah.
And once you realize that you don't have to and that everyone around you doesn't really care if you do or not.
Yeah.
It's really nice feeling.
So let's give some context as well because there's some listeners that won't know probably who you are. So all right, how does that feel? So who are you? And what was the store that you had?
So I had a clothing store called Hutch.
Yeah.
But who am I?
Oh, God.
I don't know.
You can just say your name. It's okay. Well, people know your name because they would have clicked on the episode.
My name is Jenna Hutchison.
Hi, Jenna. And so you had a clothing store called Hutch in not in Melbourne but in Victoria and Geelong.
Yeah.
And it was pretty successful.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. In a hard market, I've got to admit, in a market where all we hear towards the end of the years and financial years in Australia and America is how difficult it is to compete with online retail.
I feel like that we have made the right choice. No part of me feels any sort of regret or resentment for doing that.
By closing the store?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing whatsoever.
Good. And so how's the transition to going online? How are you finding that transition?
Well, it's only been 2 weeks, as I said, so we're still sort of finding our feet in wrapping our heads around the mentality of the fact that that's what we are now. Right
on. Because you were online previously, though. You can close that a little bit more. I don't want to go into what it is. It's just so so there's all these noises going on, which there isn't normally noises going on with these podcasts. I'm so sorry. And this is also the first podcast of the year. And the first podcast I've done since Blessing, and it's pissing down with rain, and there's people grinding children up. No, they're not. They're just making a shot.
I feel like people always say this on podcasts, and you can never hear the background noise. Like, it will be fine.
Or they can. I reckon they can hear it. But if they can, there's like a weird sort of tapping noise.
They probably have been knocked my microphone like multiple times. So that's it.
Well, anyway, it's raining and there's water coming down the downpipe and it's landing in another downpipe, and it's a little bit off-putting, but we're pushing through. We're pushing through, and the grinding that will be coming through. The screaming children.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I see shaking. They know that I'm joking. It's
I don't
okay.
even know who your listeners are. Like, anyway.
Charles Manson. Well, he can't now. He's dead.
You can't say that.
Why not?
I don't know that. No. Pack it up. Next question. I was going to say someone else.
Okay. Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. Let's chat about. Oh, this is a good one. So let's chat about what draws you to the stars. Oh. No.
Jokes. I don't have fun.
Yeah. We're not going.
What draws me what?
To the stars.
Oh,
look, the relief. Because I didn't know that about you. So she's gone back again. I can see she's. So, Jenna, when you meet Jenna, if you haven't met Jenna and you only know her from her online presence or her stores, or have you met her at a Cleaner Coast thing, which this is how I met her. You have no idea who she is, which I love. She's a very unassuming person. And then it's only like if you're attuned to these things, or if you're not. I'm naturally quite a curious person, so it's pretty easy for me to read between things. But you're a very unassuming person. You're not who you put out to be. And some things you learn about people are quite surprising, and you are a little bit of a. Go on.
I'd love to know what my public perception to you was.
Well, you already know.
Why do you think that I was so unassuming?
Well, you already think you know.
Because I just didn't give anything off.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, because you don't scream from the rooftops that Swedish Chef and shit on people.
I don't talk like that, by the way.
No, neither does Swedish Chef. Forget the bird. But you put off. You don't give off much of an image at all. So, not in a negative way.
What do I give off then?
Just a regular person. Just a regular nice person.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. But so then I learnt when we caught up for coffee that you are very, very, very interested in outside of our planet and how we get there. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So what draws you to the stars and wanting to be an astronaut? And where did that begin? I want to know more. Because we didn't talk about this.
I think there's two elements to this question. There is obviously a huge element of the fact that, come on.
No, I don't know.
We live on this tiny blue dot in a solar system where there is so much else happening. How is that not fucking intriguing for everyone? There is also a perception element that really has helped me through a lot of situations in life where I'm pull yourself back from this mild issue that you may be having on planet Earth and context
to the universe. Sure,
absolutely. It just sort of gave me this perception. Not necessarily about my problems, but life in itself. Yeah. And to be there is not only so much more out there, but it just, I don't know, it was a coping mechanism in different ways for different things.
Do you remember the first time that you sort of looked up and took notice?
Oh, God, I was little. I was very young.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd memorised the planets when I was in grade 2.
Nice.
And I just remember these are my first memories of being oh my God, am I one of those kids that is obsessed with space? We had to go to the library or the bookshelf and pick a book, and I'd be oh my God, I want really want that space book. But should I get like this like princess book? I don't know. Like, I got the space book. Obviously, I was like,
thank God.
fuck everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's something I've always really, really been intrigued by.
Yeah.
And I think the way that sort of came about from like through Instagram, I mentioned it one day, maybe accidentally, like I was like, oh, I'm on my telescope, and that just opened a floodgate. And it was like,
Well, how do you mean opened a floodgate?
well, people would respond and they'd be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I was like,
you didn't realise?
Maybe this is a safe space where I can talk about this, or like purely just like be myself and express my interests to everyone.
Felt comfortable being a little bit geeky.
And it sort of just like snowballed from there.
Into?
Going to NASA.
Yeah.
And publicly sharing that with everyone.
So what did you do at NASA?
So I
love this story.
Oh God, are we going to go there?
Yeah, fuck yeah, I love this story. It's so amazing. This is one of my. So okay, let's go to NASA.
So I'm obviously an artist. So I would paint what I thought the Earth would look like from outer space. Right. Like that's where a lot of my inspiration came from.
I didn't know that. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
so that's where a lot of like the bluey, greeny, earthy cloudscape
stuffs
artworks come from.
Wow.
So that's like what I would think that I would see if I was hovering our planet.
Yeah, orbiting,
hovering, traveling around. NASA.
So the decision to go to NASA would have been a big one.
It was. So it also came with like one of my like close friendship groups was going to Mexico.
Yeah.
As all conversations do, we were drunk. And one of my friends was like, you should book Mexico. Like, let's just go. I was like, cool. Had a few beers. Booked it. I'm one of those people. Like spontaneous. Yeah. And then I obviously like woke up the next morning. I was like, cool, going to Mexico. Via LA, obviously.
Yeah.
And then in my head, I was like, all right, like when, like how can I make this work? Like in terms of like figuring out when the next rocket launch is, or I probably like jumped a bit with that story, but I had previously like sussed this out.
Sure.
So there was a satellite mission that was meant to launch probably like 2 days into my trip.
Sure.
So I had planned to go to LA and then fly straight to Florida and then to Merritt Island. I'm going to jump around a lot with this story.
It's okay.
So I'd previously like emailed astronauts, had emailed NASA to try and like figure out who could be at the launch, how I could like meet some of those people. I had obviously idolized Ed Gibson my entire life.
Sure. Purely
just like through who he is, what he's done, certain quotes that he's like put out into the world that I had really resonated with. So I got to LA and obviously like, no pun intended, over the moon to be like going to NASA.
Yeah.
And then I hear on the news that someone had knocked an aerial off the side of a rocket in between the garage or
the factory to where they launched.
Factory. Yeah. There's probably a much more technical term for that.
Factory.
Garage. Through the like building station to the launch pad.
Yeah.
So someone had knocked an aerial like quite slightly. So obviously that put the entire mission off.
Right on.
So I was probably 6 hours off from flying to Florida when I realized this. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go anyway.
Yeah.
I'd previously been emailing people at NASA, people at the Discovery Center, people at Kennedy Space Center, people in the office, like anyone that I could, to be like, wait, I'm coming. I want to meet like someone that's going to be there.
Yeah.
I had sussed out, thanks to Google and the World Wide Web, that Ed Gibson was going to be there for a Q&A.
Amazing.
So I was like, cool, I'm gonna meet him. Like, guys, tell me how to meet him. No response. That's fine, I get it. You're a big organization. They've got bigger things going on. So I rock up at NASA, wake up at like 4 a.m. because I'm a psycho, couldn't sleep. Got an Uber to like Mare Island. It was an overwhelming day. I rocked up, got my like little space program badge, and I was like, I'm going to do everything that I have ever wanted to do here.
Today is going to be the day.
Like, I'm some little girl from Torquay, Victoria, that has somehow found herself in Florida at NASA. So I did everything that they had to offer. I did the rocket tour, I did the rocket garden, I did the anti-gravity training, I did everything.
Yeah.
And then I was like, cool, this has been overwhelming. I sit down to have lunch at like this little cafe that they have there. And I was like, this has been amazing. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I've made it to NASA. Like,
Yeah.
I felt fulfilled
Sure.
in that moment. So I'm sitting down having lunch, and I literally have not taken a bite out of whatever I've ordered. I don't even remember what I'd ordered, because this to me is irrelevant because of what's to come next. And I look to my right and I see Ed Gibson walking across the
cafeteria
area, like this
yeah.
sort of park area, to the Q&A conference center. He has two securities either side of him. He's in like his astronaut sort of, not like full get up, not like the full helmet white suit. He's in like his like mechanical onesie, the blue ones. And like no part of me hesitated. I literally put down my fork. I grabbed my bag. I left my food. I was starving. By the way, I hadn't eaten breakfast. And I just ran up to him.
Bold. And
this was like, it is quite bold because, I mean, it's America. You can't just like run up to people that are like securitized. So I ran behind him and I just said,
"Oi, Ed."
Literally, I was like, "Excuse me." And like, looking back, I was like, that's fucking crazy. But like every part of me was like, you have come this far. Like, this was someone that I have like recited his like graduation speech. Like, it just meant so much to me. And I just felt like in that moment, I was like, this was meant to happen. So I'm running up behind him. I'm like, excuse me, like some crazy little blonde Australian girl. And I was like, oh, can I just have a photo? Like, I was like, I'll be fulfilled with a photo.
Yeah.
And the security guard's like, oh, yeah, like, quick, like, we've got to be somewhere. I was like, cool, like, just one photo. And then while they were taking the photo, and you can see in the photos that this security guard has taken, I was like, just take lots, like, just take heaps. Candid, right? I am just trying to get in any moment that I can with him. And I was like, Ed, like, I idolize you. Like, I have memorized your graduation speech from, like, the 70s. And he was, like, smiling at the camera. And he was, like, turned to me. And I have a photo of the moment where he was, like, what? And he's like holding his hands up and he's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah. And I recited the entire speech to him. And he was like, wait. And the security guard's like, all right, cool, come on. Like, trying to hand my phone back. And he turned, like fully turned his body to the security guards. And he's like, give me a minute with this girl. And I was like, don't fuck this up. So I ended up just sort of like talking to him about obviously how much he meant to me. And then he was like, are you here by yourself? And I was like, yeah, I've come from Australia by myself, literally for this moment. And he was like, mildly stunned. He was like, what? Who is this girl? And he was like, do you want to come into the Q&A? And I was like, absolutely. So I somehow found myself front center of an American NASA Q&A talking about budgets, talking about political views on their entire program and the company as a whole. And I was just like,
just in awe of your current
this is
situation.
A lot.
Yeah.
But I actually wore these sneakers to NASA for the first time. This is like my lucky pair of sneakers. But it was the best moment of my life. And I really thought like throughout it and after it, I'd be like shouting from the rooftops. But I was so mentally exhausted and overwhelmed that I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And it was everything I've ever wanted to do. Like, if anyone could see my face right now, like my cheeks are smiling so much. Like, I literally want to eat Kieran alive. I'm like, you get me talking about NASA and I'm like,
yeah,
it was the best thing I've ever done.
And that's do you, I thought about this after you told me about it when we had coffee, and I was like, you know what, you probably made Ed's year. I reckon, like, he was so shocked and so overwhelmed himself, I reckon. The fact that someone has memorized his...
But just to give everyone listening context to what that was, so what he said in his speech was such a representation of what I did. So he was like, the primary key to success is to have enough self-confidence to commit yourself to whatever you want to do, to never, ever, ever, ever give up. Like, you have to be persistent.
And that's void of failure. That's accepting failure.
Absolutely. Like, you have to be persistent enough to do whatever you want to do. I was like, cool, I'm here in NASA and I'm going to run after you.
How much of that do you take through to your normal life?
Probably not enough as I should.
Yeah? Do you think you take a good percentage of it through, though? Because
Absolutely.
You're doing pretty fucking well.
Like, I obviously we've mentioned, did a podcast on Monday, and she was like, how do you just do things? Like, you commit yourself to things you care about and then you action them and you do them. But I just think, like, to anyone, like, if you want to do something, commit yourself to it and do it. Like, find a way.
Do you think that message gets lost on people, or people are just a little bit lazy sometimes, or some people just find it really difficult to actually do that?
It would come down to, like, who that person is, but I think there are a lot of elements to that. Like, there's judgment elements, there's what we've spoken about earlier, like public perception elements, there's doubt, there's fear.
Fear's a big one.
Fear's huge. Like, fear almost psyched me out of this podcast.
It did.
I was like, fear
is
not like a good enough reason to not do something.
Well, as I replied to you, it's a good reason to do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's hard, and that's why the fear exists. And as I was talking about this recently, is that those emotions are often, this is leading into something that I was going to bring up with you later, was that people's perceptions of positive and negative emotions, and then fear being a negative emotion, but I don't see it as something that's negative. I see it as something that's something that's positive. I just see it as something that's necessary. And that you have fear because obviously fear is unpleasant, but sometimes fear is important.
I've started to try and do this weird thing, like, obviously psyching myself out of this podcast is a bad example, but where I really try and, like, face fear in the face and be like,
how do you do this?
cool, let's do this.
So is it like, do you actually is it something that you feel, you're like, oh, I feel myself starting to go a little bit in with, and this is not something I want to go through with because I'm afraid of X reasons. So now you need to talk yourself around it, or like, what's your process with that?
It's obviously like a process of small steps. Like I'm not just being like,
sure.
Like for example, at the Clean the Coast events, I never get up and make a speech. Like Damo's always the one that does that. But for example, the last one I like got up there with him, which is something that I would never do. But I don't know, I sort of like have tried to see it as like this thing that is progressive and that like almost tried to like perceive it in like an exciting thing, like get up there and face the fear.
Oh, okay, like an adrenaline.
Yeah, like an adrenaline,
sure.
Like find some sort of adrenaline.
That's not a small step
that.
though. That like.
But in the things that I'm doing, it is.
Okay, sure.
Because I'm not getting up there being like, yo, I'm going to make a speech today.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
that would just be wild. I'm going to get up there and like show people that I am like
a part of it.
Yeah. So it's very minor stuff, but
to you.
To me. And yeah, probably to others. But it comes back to that whole like letting people know who I am type thing.
There's only so much of that you can give up.
Yeah.
Which I support. I'm really gutted that you didn't look over your list of questions because there's one that's quite specific, and I worry that if I ask it, it's gonna trap you, and you're not gonna feel comfortable answering it.
Hands over my head again.
Yeah. Well, I can come back to that one.
What was the other one?
What would you study later in life?
Ooh, probably astrophysics, 100%. Why? It's something that I've always wanted to delve into more. And it's relevant to my mind. Yeah. And what I believe in and what I'm interested in.
Yeah. There's more children lining up to go under the meat grinder. Sorry, but people probably didn't hear the children walking past. There's honestly not like a children meat grinder factory across the road from me. It's just a cafe.
You need to shut this aspect.
No, I think I know. I need to do the opposite. I need to promote it more. I can see. There's not. There's just like a nice cafe, and they're actually expanding. And
staring at the door.
Yeah. And but so ignore the whole meat grinder, kitty grinder factory, which is actually an amazing album Marilyn Manson did back in the 90s called Kitty Grinder. But we won't really go into that. So is there anything else that you'd rather study?
Before my time.
What? Really? How old are you? 30.
How old do you think I am?
30.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll take that. Cool.
What's
the next question? How old are you?
35. Cool.
Next question.
I'll take that.
You're 37.
No, I'm 35. Okay, here's a good one. So a moment in your life that you would relive.
Oh God, my instant thing without even thinking about it further is something to do with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a moment with my dad.
Okay.
But that came to me before I even had time to think about anything else.
Okay. Well, that's amazing. Thank you for your vulnerability and your honesty. I appreciate that.
Like my mind was like, oh, something with my dad.
I love that you just went straight with your gut instinct.
But I stopped myself before my mind had time to take over and be like,
obviously, because
should I mention that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some sort of moment with my dad. And it could be something small as him cooking dinner with me or something.
So this you don't know about me, but I think a lot of people do know about me, is that my dad is not longer in my life's picture. He's recovering alcoholic and will be for life, and has removed himself from the family. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I would probably do as well, is relive some relive some childhood memories that some fishing trips that him and I took because
Yeah.
they were amazing. Yeah.
Just like it doesn't have to be some monumental moment in my life. It just
No,
has
it's the
to be
small
like,
stuff for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Instantly, my mind was like, thought of this moment where he cooks this like fettuccine in the kitchen, and that's instantly what my mind went to before I had time to even think about like
Can you
some other
smell it?
answer. Yeah.
What does it smell like?
It smells like this creamy sun-dried tomato, mushroom, pine nut fettuccine, and it's the best. And he made it the best.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh.
Can you hear it cooking and everything?
Yeah, he'd have like Pink Floyd blaring. And I'd be like,
I love Pink Floyd.
Yeah, with a glass of red that he made from his vineyard. And I don't know, just little moments like that. Like, it doesn't have to be super, as I said, monumental.
No, I think the small moments are the ones that we cherish the most. I do. For me, yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
It's the small moments for me that I cherish the most. Like, it's the quiet, small moments.
Do you enjoy them at the time, though? Because I feel like a lot of the time it's
So
always
much.
in hindsight.
So much. Well, totally, for both. Like, there's this moment that I remember having a while ago. This is with my ex, actually. And it wasn't with her specifically, but she was just there. We were out on the water in Torquay. It's okay, there's water. There's those things. And we were out actually in Torquay, and there was no one else out because it was fucking flat. There was no surf, and we decided to paddle out anyway. And then just as we were out there, probably been out there for half an hour, and this massive storm came over, and it was like there was no wind, and just the heavens opened up and just flooded rain.
Yeah.
And this most amazing moment, just being on the water and not being able to see the shore or the horizon or anything, just surrounded by water. And the rain hit the water and made the top of the ocean look like velvet.
I feel like you feel like moments like that in a sixth sense. Like
Yeah,
there's
you're
something
so out of
else
body.
that is adding to that rather than like smell, hearing, like physical. Like, I think about moments like that, and it's just something that is next level.
Like, and now there's moments in my life that are little moments that I purposely like tell myself to remember. I will remember this forever.
Yeah.
One of those whenever it's been really hot for a long and dry for a really long period of time, and then the rain comes, I always make a point of like standing there and absorbing the smell of the rain.
Yeah.
And thinking about it and just because it's one of my favourite smells, one of my favourite experiences is fresh rain.
Do you think that has come... This has become me, like, interviewing you.
Whose fucking podcast is this, Jenna?
Do you
It's
think
my
that
show.
has, like, come with age? Like, retaining and really holding on to, like, those feelings and moments. Do you think that has come with age?
I think age is a ramification of reflection. So I think it's age...
But that awareness of holding on to a moment like that.
But that's because I've been getting older. So it's like age isn't the reason for it. It's the time that I've been able to look back on. And
this is my podcast now, and this is me interviewing Karen.
How's it going? I'm so excited about that.
I love it. I love that the focus is taken off me.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel better?
Yeah,
you
I'd love to
look.
interview.
You definitely
yeah,
look
look
stronger.
at my stance.
Yeah,
I'm like leaning
everything's-
into the microphone now.
Everything's changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I can
I
ask you some
feel
questions.
it's definitely going back. It's a for me it's an experience thing, and the more time that I spend on this earth, the more experiences I have, and the more experience I have to look back on, reflect on. So age is just a ramification of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just because I'm here longer.
It's nice.
Yeah. So then I get to, which is, again, I look back and go, make more of a moment on those, take more time on those moments. Savor it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
It comes back to awareness as well.
How do you mean?
Like being aware in certain moments.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's even moments that you have in your life where you're so overwhelmed you forget to be aware.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, oh God, I should have taken more time doing that, or I should have,
But
I took too much time.
Not like a physical thing, like in today's society where we're constantly on our phones. It's a mental thing. Like you can be in a moment and constantly be thinking about, but tomorrow, like, or in a couple of hours, or it's like, well, it's right now.
Do you think that people will look back and they will. Do you think people look back and they'll regret or wish that they spent more time talking to people individually one-on-one versus like walking down the street down here and going past cafes, and then on the table you see two friends and the two friends aren't talking to each other but they're on their phones? Do you think people look back on these moments and they'll go, I wish that I wasn't on my phone so much, I wish that I was talking to someone that was directly opposite me rather than communicating with the rest of the world?
Potentially. I think it's something that everyone will start to eventually crave, I hope.
Connection?
Yeah. Human connection.
Human connection?
Yeah.
Are you worried about where the world's going with more and more people, with technology coming out that sort of promotes the online awareness, so that the neuromesh stuff, for example, where there'll be so Elon Musk has a company, the Boring Company, and they have a program. They're developing this thing called neuromesh, where they plant a mesh on top of your brain that connects you to your frame, so your phone or your computer. And so if you need directions on your phone, for example, to get from point A to point B, you think it and then the directions come up. Or,
what was your initial question before the
so
explanation?
do you think that people will start... that's a good question because I kind of
I got lost.
Yeah, so do you think...
You mentioned Elon Musk and my mind went to SpaceX. And
yeah, so do you think that people will start to crave the personal connection
Human
more,
connection.
even though that technology is pushing us away from that?
Am I scared of it?
Are you scared of it? Or is it a fear, or is it something you think about and consider?
It's probably something I try not to think about.
Really?
I mean...
So you're obviously thinking about it.
Yeah,
you're trying not
and I
to.
think in a sense where I say it's something that I try not to think about, it obviously results in me potentially believing that it is quite a scary road to go down.
Why is it scary for you?
Oh, I think AI is quite scary.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about AI makes you...
I think it's unnecessary.
Right on.
I really do.
Yeah.
And I think that there is this like constant evolution of like, you know, findings and like constant development in that sort of field. And I think that we are potentially going to get to a point where we're like, holy shit, what have we done?
Do you think?
Yeah.
Have you heard the theory that people have that the next evolutionary step is going to be brought on by us? That our purpose in life, being human beings, Homo sapiens, is to create the next evolutionary step, which is technology. So not a biological entity, but a mechanical entity. I
think that scares the shit out of me.
And so that we're necessary because the next step is inevitable.
No, I don't think so. Do you?
Part of me think that it makes sense, and
I can 100% see where that like perception has come from.
I view it the same way that I view religion. Mm-hmm. So I view religion as something that's necessary in some aspects because it's what law that we had and it's what people used to control people with. And I think that some people deem it as necessary as today, it's all relevant, not so much necessary, but some people see it as relevant today because it's how they connect and how they communicate with other people. And also there's obviously people use religion, well not obviously, but people use religion as forms of control and forms of means of finding a means, okay? But I view it the same way that I view AI. So
but if we fast forward like 500 years, where are we at? Like,
I don't see it being any different as today.
Really?
Yeah.
500 years?
Yeah.
I
people will still be people.
That. I disagree with that.
The physiological...
500 years.
Yeah. People are made up of DNA, we're made up of blood and bones, we're made up of carbon, shitloads of water, a little bit of gold in your
Majority
joints.
water.
Yeah, shitload of water.
Yeah.
A little bit of gold in your joints. There's lead.
I'm just going to take a sip while you go through the human anatomy.
Speaking of water, but H2O,
which is some of the cleanest water in the world, actually, Melbourne, if you ever come to Melbourne.
It doesn't taste bad.
Melbourne's pretty good. So the human being is made up physiologically of those bits and pieces along with emotions. So we display a series of emotions. Nothing has changed. People still, from day dot, people feel greed, people feel envious or jealous, people feel happy, sad, and it's the exterior environment that we live in that exacerbates those emotions. And
So why do you feel there is a need for AI?
Because people have a need for more.
In terms of what, though? Like, what aspect do we need more of?
So we started with the flint. Okay. Right. So we started with the flint. I was trying to push the whole fingernail thing into something else, but it just isn't.
Yeah, I saw you looking at
well, yeah. So we started with the flint, for example, and then we moved on to fire, and through wanting more or being able to control more, you want more. And so AI is the next legitimate step, is creating machines that are autonomous, and that, okay, we have autonomous machines. We have machines at the moment that you go into a factory or a warehouse or space, you push a button and things operate.
You have them at your local supermarket.
Yep. Checkouts.
Yeah.
You have people now, cars, okay, cell phones.
So we have dinosaurs, we have humanity, and we have AI.
They are all very big leaps, but yes, we have those things. We have those things. But AI makes sense. Is it frightening? Yeah. But it makes sense. It's the next step.
It makes sense in certain categories. But I'm talking about like
everything makes sense.
Like replacing us. Like
It
robots.
makes sense. Again, it makes sense that that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's scary.
Yeah, but reality is what it is. It's like people are good and bad. It's just a reality.
We're getting down a big rabbit hole.
We are. Well, you went there. This is your
I know.
podcast
I asked
now.
you. This is my podcast.
Yeah.
I just want to show you a view.
Yeah, but I think AI is necessary. I think it's a necessary step, and I'm not saying just because I think that it's necessary that I want it. Like I think that people will go down to.
But you've thought about it enough to
Well,
feel
I
like
thought about
it's
it because
a
we're
necessity.
surrounded by it. Like our phone has levels of artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, everything we do, everything everyone does in a day-to-day.
Everyone knows now that if they're having a conversation between two people now, and the whole thing that comes up is I think my phone's listening to me now because I was talking about pork sausages to such and such. Now I'm getting a notification on my phone on the thing like an adverts with Coles or whatever supermarket promoting bloody sausages. So everyone knows, or everyone thinks, yeah, it's a thing.
It's becoming more and more aware.
People become more aware. So nothing's going to change. So 500 years, nothing's going to change. The environment will change for sure, but people won't. People will still be people.
What do you think will happen with the environment? Do you think that we're going to fuck ourselves?
I say this a lot to people the whole climate change thing. So I'm not a climate change denialist to start with, but this is something that I say is that with human beings changing the climate, we're fucking Mother Nature, we're fucking the planet. We're not. The planet will be fine.
The climate has changed.
The climate's changed. The planet will be fine.
Done. Yeah.
The planet will be just fine. The planet will exist long after we're gone. We will destroy the world that we know. It's inevitable. I can't see us doing anything else but doing that. I'm sorry. But I think the planet will be fine. She will reset.
Do you think there was something like this before us?
Yeah, it was called an asteroid.
Before that?
Yeah, I do. I think that series of events, I think nothing is overly specifically original. I think the planet evolves around chaos, and I think human beings have started because of it. I think chaos exists for a reason. I think that we just get stuck being human beings with the things that are comfortable and things we want because we don't want things to change because it's a wonderful world that we live in.
It's also such a routine thing, like...
We're habitual creatures. Yeah. So the moment something changes that's outside of our control or our parameters of control or our parameters of understanding.
And awareness. Like people are just so tunnel visioned on some things.
And that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
You know. But I think but because of that, you know, that wanting to control things is, you know, it leads to people freaking out, and
it leads to people thinking that it's too much, so they go back to their tunnel vision. They're like, whoa, back to just sort of me living this simple life.
Yeah, so this leads into something else is that the whole Clean the Coast thing that you're a part of.
Yes.
Right, so the whole tunnel vision thing, part of the message, part of the problem that I see around the world at the moment, so going along the climate change bandwagon that we're on, the whole media message that we get is the world. So exactly what I've been talking about. The world is changing around us. And as the media
message is overwhelming.
Yes, because is this something that you think about is the reason or one of the reasons that you started the Cleaner Coast is because of the whole message being too macro, that people are looking too big and they go, the world needs to change, 100%. The world is in it, and then we need to bring it back.
100%.
Yeah.
And like majority of, you know, the population, I really don't mean to like scrutinize this, like,
sure,
but so many people like look for like political stability in things and how they're meant to do things and when they're meant to do things.
Yeah.
And there is so much political instability, not only in the world right now, but in Australia.
Yeah, Australia's shocking.
And it honestly just came from me being like, from me seeing this firsthand, being like, there's shit everywhere. Like there's plastic all over the beach. There's shit floating in the ocean. Like obviously I was aware of it before I visualized it firsthand.
Sure.
But it was that mindset of me being like, why is someone not doing something about this? To me being like, oh, hang on a minute. I'm probably someone that can do something about this. Like we don't have to wait for some parliament to address something that we could just be doing.
Yeah.
And it just sort of came back to that, like, you know, strip it back. Like, come to your community, come to your hometown, do something about it yourself, get together, build that awareness, and make a change.
Versus people focusing on the bigger problem.
100%. And this comes back to what we were talking about at the pub. I hate saying the word pub. But it comes back to like the power of partial solutions. Like,
okay, go on.
It honestly is effective. Like we don't have to all stop. Like, I mean, it's ideal if we all stopped using plastic.
Yeah.
But people think that it's so much bigger than ourselves, and it's not. Like, start making that A to B change, then A, B, C. Like, don't go from A to Z and be like...
And by that you
it's overwhelming.
By that you mean you don't have to discard your life as you know it. Everyone buy a Tesla, buy metal
you don't
straws.
have to sell your car and discard it and start walking to work. You don't have to completely strip your life back and use one fork for the rest of your life. Like, it's fine. Like, I get it. And I've always been quite conscious to not like scream down people's throats and be like, you shouldn't be using this. But even though I did it the other day. I did it to Kira the other day.
Which is why I pointed out my...
Yeah, I did it to him the other day, but it's because
it was funny. It was in jest.
It was funny, and it was all in context.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw your face then. I was like, you bitch, hypocrite.
Yeah.
No, I screamed at you. It's fine. I just think that like people need to realize it is easier than they think it is to make some sort of change.
Yeah.
And it all comes with baby steps, and it like awareness. It comes back to awareness.
Do you think there's an over negative message being spread versus the positive?
Yes. There's a guy that I follow on Instagram and actually chat to a lot, and his handle is More Than Just Kale, and he has this brilliant way of educating people about certain things without making them feel attacked
or judged.
Sure. Because I feel like when people are like that, it's like, whoa, like too much, like unfollow, shut down.
Sure.
It's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And he has this really nice way of educating people on the reality of the situation. For example, like, at the risk of getting political here, when the fires are going on, there were so many people being like, we're losing cattle, like these sheep are burning alive, these cows are dying, and everyone like rallying around them and going home and eating a steak for dinner. It's like, make the connection here.
People are very fast and quick to jump on a judgmental or an isolation wagon where they...
Absolutely.
And which is fine, but at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in relativity, and I'm a big believer that human beings will always do the best that they can with what they have until they know better, and then they'll do better. And I think that if someone... I eat meat. I eat probably mostly a plant diet, but I do eat meat. I'm not ashamed of it. I do.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
like,
and
I'm just going to
you.
intersect there and be like, that's fine.
Like I drink milk. I know
Yeah.
you drink soy and
I do
almond and other different variations of nut milks
Yeah.
and oat milk. You drink oat milk?
I drink anything with dairy, but yeah. I
You
could drink
don't?
oat
No
milk.
dairy at all?
No dairy at all.
No. So, and it's easy to call someone a hypocrite.
Which
it's
I wasn't
harder.
doing, I would
No,
like
no,
to add. I
for
was just
sure.
trying to like point out something.
the flaws in the argument, but I think it's easy to call someone a hypocrite, but it's harder, and it's harder to jump into someone else's shoes and think about their situation, their circumstance, and the decisions they're making and the reasons they're making those decisions based on their life and based on where they are and the hardships and the good things that they go through that influence their decisions and influence the way they live their life and their lifestyle. But I'm a big believer in that people will always try to do the best they can. Yes, there's a percentage of people that are assholes. You can't help that. But let's focus on the fact that people want to do the best that they can and try to do the best they can with what they have. While that's sometimes not enough in some people's eyes, that's more than what some people will ever give.
Do you think that people can potentially be more educated in aspects though?
You can always be more educated.
Yeah.
That's a no. Like, again, we know what we know now until we know more. It's like...
it's like telling people that our recycling is just now getting mixed into our rubbish and it's going nowhere.
Yeah,
and
but
a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people... Yes, I agree, but at the same time, it's hard to train a massive population a routine. And so I can understand why some information was... Again, I don't think it was a good thing. I'm not promoting it as a good thing, but I can understand why information was withheld, or some information was withheld or misled, because it's difficult to train a population to do something positive like recycle. So if they're recycling and doing a good job at the moment, or a better job than they were doing yesterday, keep them fucking doing it.
Yeah.
I get it. Figure out a solution. Be patient. You can't expect people or everyone or individuals or a mass population to change their way of thinking overnight.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
Hence, you doing the Cleaner Coast, being a part of that with Damien Cole. And
He's amazing, by the way.
He is.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, but so are you. She's shaking her head and smiling.
No.
But the small steps are what matters, right? And doing the small things, not doing everything at once, but doing little things often.
It's like a lot of aspects of life.
It is. One step after another. Don't
after.
expect the final result tomorrow. They ain't coming.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I think, and that's where I'm at. All right.
Let's move on. That got
Okay.
down a political rabbit hole.
So again, going on, well, I'm very disappointed actually that you didn't read the questions I sent you because I wanted. Yeah, because this is what I want.
I can look at them.
Okay.
I'll
well,
look
I
at them
won't have to
quickly.
tell you what they are. But, so
I'll look at them.
top 5 best worst films.
Oh my gosh. Best like so
Best worst
10.
films.
Best worst.
Yeah.
Like, is that one word?
It
You
is
don't want
now.
like 5 best and then 5 worst.
No,
Oh my god, Mean Girls. It's the best film ever.
but it's a shit film.
It's shit. It's like the best worst film.
Okay.
No.
So number 1, yeah.
God, that's so hard.
This is why I sent you were like, send me the questions now, and you even like sent me this little video like, where are the questions coming?
What?
And I was like, I'm going down.
What are yours then?
These are the
I'm the
questions.
interviewer.
No, you again, this is my show. You don't get to tell me what.
Best worst film.
Yeah, I sent these through to you. This is the shit.
Like, I can pick the
People are going to
best.
go like, I can't believe this podcast.
I know, they're like, what the fuck? Chicken prep.
And we had a big discussion about how you want to prepare for a podcast and make sure that you were.
I don't know if I would have been able to repair regardless of how.
You
like,
definitely would have thought about it.
best worst films.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for me, I put down, because I prepared, I don't know about you, but I prepared.
Hit me.
Okay.
Hit me with your preparation.
So my Sleepy Hollow, with Johnny Depp. I think it's a shit film.
That's in
but
the
I
best
love,
worst?
Yeah, but I love it.
Okay.
But it's a terrible
Yeah,
film.
moving on.
Meet Joe Black.
Never seen it. No.
It's a chick flick. It's Brad Pitt. So Brad Pitt plays the devil. And so
There's so many best worst films though.
but this is the point, top 5. Okay. All right. Okay. So which is really good. And then Jim Carrey, Liar Liar.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Love
That's a good best
That's
worst.
a shit film.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but it's great.
I feel like he's in a lot of terrible best worst films.
Copper Mountain, which is a shocker. But it's a good film because Jim Carrey is amazing. You could pretty much, all of the Ace Ventura ones haven't aged well. So you could watch those again and just laugh because they're stupid and funny because he's amazing in them, but they're also terrible films.
What else have you got?
Okay. Oh, the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so not the old one.
So the cartoon one. Or like the new
no, the
remake.
new Johnny Depp one.
No.
It's terrible.
You can't remake shit like that. Especially a classic.
Gene Wilder was just too good.
You can't make that stuff.
No. But it's still a good film because Johnny Depp's in it and he's amazing. But
No,
he's still
but
not
he's too like commercialized. He's too like
polished.
in that industry. So it gives you like this whole different perception of the film. How's me just coming out with some like
Yeah,
fried
you're on
chicken
it.
crab?
Yeah. God.
That's my view.
And you probably don't know the bad taste. Oh, okay, well,
That's
you don't know
your
this.
bad taste.
It's Peter Jackson, one of Peter Jackson's films that he
No.
did. You know Peter Jackson? Lord of the Rings? He
No.
directed Lord of the Rings?
Do you know I've never seen Lord of the Rings?
Oh.
I've never seen a Harry Potter film.
Oh, I commend.
Thank you. I've never seen.
Is the Harry Potter one is something you're putting off? Now that you haven't seen it, you're like, you know what, I'm not going to see it, versus I just don't have time to see it.
Oh, this can't be fucked. I have no interest. To be honest. Like,
Magic.
it just doesn't interest me.
Boom.
But I guess it obviously. I feel like I'm too far gone. Yeah.
Too old?
Like, no. Ooh.
Oh.
No, I feel like it had its moment, and I've missed it.
Okay.
I've never seen not Lord of the Rings. What else? Game of Thrones. Never watched Game of Thrones.
Really?
Ever.
My eyes just lit up.
Yeah, it did. You
But
like stared at me
you're
like
not
you're
the
like,
only
what
person
the
I've
fuck?
met that hasn't seen Game of Thrones.
No
There's
interest
plenty
in
of
it.
people haven't seen it, and they're just like, wow, I just wasn't on that bandwagon. And then everyone talks about it. I'm like, whatever.
Like,
You're Game of Thrones.
I don't know. I wouldn't even be able to tell you what happens. Like, it's dark, it's cold, they wear fur or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Well, you've just given up Greenland.
yeah. That was my synopsis. Yeah. Plot twist. No, I've never. No interest.
Did you ever watch Chernobyl? You would love.
That was a head shake, by the way. What is that?
Yeah, Chernobyl. So Chernobyl is a series that came out recently. It's a small mini series that was released in Australia on Foxtel. It was. And it was amazing. And so it was a reenactment, is probably the best, although it's a dirty word, a reenactment of the Chernobyl incident. Yeah, we've got friends in here. Of the Chernobyl.
I just on my eye.
Yeah, of the nuclear disaster in Russia and Chernobyl.
Oh, I feel like that's something I'd be interested in.
It's amazing. So it's 5 episodes.
What's it called?
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Yeah. So you probably don't need to remember that one because it's quite a big... Be like if the Chinese production company did a series called Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? It's just a massive... It's a good name. So, and it's an amazing series and done by English. It's all in English accents as well, which is, I find odd, but you get over it pretty quickly. I can suspend disbelief. I'm surprised you haven't seen it. It's amazing.
Really? I'm surprised
you would love it. Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
It's actually some of the best television I've ever seen.
That's a bit cool. Okay, you've set a benchmark now. I'll give you my views out of 5.
You can. You should. Yeah, you should watch it. It's worthwhile. It's definitely worthwhile. The 5 hours out of your life.
Well,
it's amazing. Yeah, it's very, very good. Very suspenseful.
I've watched the Hiroshima one.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, that's good. I've been to Hiroshima.
I haven't been to Hiroshima. What was it like?
Eerie.
Really?
Yeah.
It's fully safe now, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. I felt very safe there.
Yeah.
In the entire country.
In Japan.
Yep.
So talk to me about the experience of Hiroshima.
I was quite young. I was over there on exchange.
Really?
Yeah, this is wow, just turned a corner, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So I was there for school.
Right.
Exchange. So I went to Fukuoka High. So I travelled around before I started school on the exchange family. Yeah, I was probably 14.
Do you speak Japanese still?
Oh, no.
That's all I know.
Genki desu
ka? So, Ichi-ni-san.
There was I was part of like a Shakespeare play in the high school, and I still remember my exact script.
Really?
Of what I had to say, but in terms of my like entire like common vocabulary in Japanese, I couldn't order a meal. But I remember like my Shakespeare.
Do you still remember it?
My like line that I had to say, yes.
What was it? Go on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Someone's going to listen to this and be like, what the fuck is this?
Hundreds of people are listening to this right now.
Oh.
What was it? What was the line? What was the play?
Oh my God. I didn't even understand it. I just got told that this is what I had to say.
Hey, welcome to being an actor.
It was like in the basketball. I remember exactly where it was. It was like, oh my God, I'm not even going to do this on live air.
It's not live.
I'll do it like off.
Okay, I'll record it.
Yeah, you can record it.
You could do it now. No, we're moving on. Oh! Okay.
It was like, それぞれなるままに日暮らしすずりに迎えて心に移りゆく癒しの仕事を And that was like my line that I had to say.
That's amazing. I know you said, but I believe
I know.
Also, no, I really want sushi.
Yeah, it was like, get me the fuck out of... No. Yeah, the Japanese are very like into like a lot of intercurricular activities. Like they would get to school at 8 a.m, leave at like 8 p.m. Like it was all like learning, sport, like sport before school, sport after school.
Really? Big on sport?
So much sport.
What sport
like you
did you
had
do?
I did table tennis.
No.
I did basketball for a little bit, track, and then I did ping pong.
Ping pong.
Have you seen how long my arms are? Like I dominated.
Yeah.
Like as an Australian,
Positive wingspan.
dominated. Like my arms are very long.
Yeah, it's a positive wingspan. Were your arms?
I just didn't move. I had like a bat in each hand. I was like,
ting, 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 ting.
come on,
Yeah.
come at me.
It's positive when your arms are wider than you are tall. So
I've done this thing before.
Yeah, so most people are either plus or minus a couple of centimetres, where if you stick your arms out wide, that is how tall you are, plus or minus. So most people will be either plus a couple of centimetres or minus a couple of centimetres.
Should we do this later?
Yeah, I don't have a
Just
tape
pop
measure
our
right now.
findings in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm positive.
I feel like I'd be
I've got long arms.
Do you reckon I'd be positive?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty tall though.
What are you, 5'9"? 5'10"?
Tall.
Not that tall. We go to a basketball game. I could show some tall women. They're pretty tall.
Yeah.
They're like 6'4", 6'6".
I reckon I'd be spot on.
Yeah, I reckon you'd be. Right.
We'll see.
We're just doing stuff.
We'll figure it out later.
We'll figure it out later with a tape measure. But I'm positive. So that's what that means. So that's good for table tennis.
Yeah, it was good. I was
Ping
good at
pong,
it.
sorry.
I mean, as good as I needed to be to pass that class.
You actually had to pass it.
Yeah, we had like grades. I used to just catch the train home at night and get ice cream balls, but
Was that part of their curriculum?
ice cream balls?
Yeah.
No. My host family are like, what are you doing home? Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
Is it something that you thought you were going to do before you did it? Or is it just a spontaneous thing?
It was quite spontaneous. Like I was studying the language, obviously, in high school. And then there was an opportunity to go on exchange. And I was just like, I just honestly thought it was like part of the learning process.
Yeah.
So like looking back now, it was so cool and so cultural. And to do that at such a young age.
A pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Especially somewhere so cultural like that. I guess any language you sort of learn in Australian schools is quite cultured anyway, but...
Like English, is that what you mean?
No, like we had
language.
German or Japanese or...
So I learnt French when I was at home.
I would love to learn French.
Japanese. Yeah, we started off learning Japanese. We could choose between Japanese or German. And we started off with Japanese for Form 2 and Form 3. And then Form 4 kicked in. I was like, this is not really for me. I want to do something else. And I wanted to live in France and be a chef when I was younger. So I learnt French through correspondence, and I had a French teacher in a different town to near where I was going to school. Mm-hmm. And so 3 nights a week I would go to this lady's house to learn French. So I learnt French because I wanted to go to France.
I would love to learn French. And
French
you've been
amazing.
to France?
Yeah, I spent 3 months in France.
I would love to go.
I loved it. I would live in France. I would live in France tomorrow.
Really?
Mm-hmm. South or Bordeaux. Love Bordeaux. Paris was crazy. I love Paris, but Paris is kind of like an old dog. Like when you meet the old dog, you're just like a scraggy old, shitty old dog. You probably just die soon. I don't really care about you.
No.
And then you sort of spend some time with the dog, and you're like, oh, actually, I kind of like the intricacies.
You have personality, you have depth, yeah.
You know, and that's what Paris was like. If you go to Paris for a few days, or a week, you'll definitely see the tourist attractions, which are attractions for a reason because they're amazing. But Paris is not the tourist attractions. Paris is
character and
depth, and you need to be patient with Paris, and you need to just like relax and get over yourself, and stop thinking, oh my God, I'm in Paris. You just got to just be and exist and just...
That's what I love about foreign countries, like going to like little local cafes, not like these big commercialized areas, and actually like absorbing that culture and that surrounding.
Agreed.
As it would be without being so commercialized in different areas.
Like, I love the fact that tourist attractions exist because, they're made like Gaudi in Spain, going to see a beautiful big church in Barcelona, or you get it. Okay, they're amazing. They're an
Do you
attraction.
feel the need to go see those when you're in those places though?
No, I don't feel the need, but I can understand loved going to the Louvre.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so talking about the church thing, like, so it's a massive lineup to get into, to go and see even just the outside of this church. You know, you line up for hours and
In France.
No, Gaudians, and so
yeah.
the church in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And missed out on seeing the inside of it because this didn't turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning to book
I
a
didn't
ticket.
go in either.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm okay with not going in.
Yeah.
You know, it's the outside is amazing. It's an incredible
Google images.
Hey?
You can go on Google Images.
You can, but seeing something in person is very different. Like,
absolutely.
For me, like, best example of this is the Mona Lisa. Going to see the Mona Lisa painting in the Louvre. So the Louvre is amazing. It's this big giant fortress underground, all these beautiful paintings and sculptures and exhibitions and shit everywhere. It's fucking incredible. But for me, the most amazing thing wasn't so much the Mona Lisa, it was the lead up to the Mona Lisa and the statue you see before it. So there's the statue called the Victory statue. It's this beautiful big statue. It's pretty recently been found. It's fucking incredible.
Recently been found how?
Like about a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
Just on this archipelagical island or whatever it is. I'm going to fuck this up. Anyway, so I won't go into it too much, but the Louvre thing was amazing because the Mona Lisa moment was amazing because for me, the most amazing thing wasn't the painting, it was the people before the painting was just savages, just masses, hundreds and hundreds of people lining up to see this painting, taking selfies of it.
Do you not feel that like strips back the excitement and that like...
That's the excitement for me.
Really?
The painting is like, it's great. It's an amazing painting, sure. For me, I'm not like amazingly drawn to that. I'm not like, like for me.
See, that stuff for me is a turn off.
But the people.
Yeah.
Just
that
the
hype.
the hype is what I find a hype. Like the fact that people have to see it. They have to take a photo of it to prove that they've been there. That's fascinating to me. People like strewn across the floor charging their phones because their phones are running out of battery so they can take a fucking photo of it. Like I have this amazing photo.
So you have like almost this like bird's eye vision of what is going on that you're like, wow, rather than the situation itself.
For sure. Which I found amazing.
I found that story amazing. Like, wow.
But it was incredible being there. Like, and I'm grateful to have been there, and I'm grateful to have seen the painting. To me, it's nothing special. That's just me.
Yeah.
I like this.
I do disagree with what I said earlier. Like, that stuff is incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
Especially all around Europe. Like,
Europe. Yeah, that's what we're missing in Australia. We're just missing the history that Europe has.
It's there in other ways, though. I think it's probably there in other ways that we take for granted.
Sure.
In terms of like landscape and...
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to constantly disagree.
It's okay.
Yeah. We definitely don't have any of that here.
I mean, some would disagree that the Aboriginal culture has that massive history, but it's, yes, they've been here for a very long time, but it's not as in your face as the European, and they just haven't had the wars that the Europeans have had.
But do you think that we would like value things like that if it was here? Like if we had all those elements of, say, wars and history and artists.
Yep, I think we would.
We would still value it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because...
It being our own?
Well, if we had the wars here, first of all, Australia wouldn't be Australia. Australia would be, say, 6 or 7 different states. There would be countries. And I think that you would have a sense of patriotic self-sense towards whatever state or country that you come from, and therefore from that drives culture and drives history. And so Queensland would be very different to Victoria, and so through the hundreds of years of war, this is totally hypothetical, through the hundreds of years of war between the two states, the two countries, you know, you have stories and you have battles and epic moments that come out and small moments that come out and art and culture that comes out of those struggles of just trying to live. that you have a sense of patriotic value to those geographic, and those times. And so I think like did you yourself feel like you've been to Europe?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel any? And so your heritage is European. What's your heritage?
Australian. I don't know. I have no idea.
You don't know?
No.
So, so there would be like a sense of, I'm sure that there's a sense of awe and a sense of not belonging, but as when you went to Europe and saw different sites and different places, did you feel anything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I loved going off and doing that stuff by myself. Like I went with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I would spend hours, and it wasn't necessarily in like ticketed museums or like, it was more so just like roaming streets and
Amazing.
You know, absorbing that in different ways rather than just like paintings on the wall.
Landmarks.
Yeah, it was more that like vast landscape things that I would really sort of find that fulfillment of
adventure.
Yeah. But in saying that, like I did do most museums, like Peggy Guggenheim, like all of them.
Yeah.
But I opted to always do them by myself.
Really?
Like it wasn't something that I wanted to be rushed through. I wanted to, I don't know, I like doing that sort of stuff by myself. I love traveling by myself.
Yeah.
This is no like I love the girlfriend that I went with to Europe. Like she's amazing, but I do like enjoy doing stuff by myself.
It's those types
very
of
much so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm not a big group person. I don't like going with groups, tour groups.
And I like to absorb things with my own perception and feel like my own emotions towards that without having sort of someone else alter that, or I don't know, it's hard
Influence
to explain.
it.
Yeah.
I reckon it's about wrap up time.
We've covered a lot.
In passing, is there anything that you want to pass on to people that may be thinking about going on a similar journey to what you've been on, like starting something up online or chasing their visions of their better selves that you want to pass on? Is there anything that you want to, is it like a little passing message?
I think that if like someone has like a vision to pursue something, they have to do it. Like they have to. Otherwise that stuff is going to sit within them for so long. Like being like your true, most authentic self is going to be like the most sincere form of success that any of us can hope to achieve in our lifetimes. Like you have to just follow your heart, do what fills you up.
Yeah.
Pick up your rubbish.
Yeah. Well, I'm very appreciative and very grateful to have you on the show, and I hope that I made you feel a little bit more comfortable and less stressed than what you think. And I think you did a good job, and thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. I think we definitely discussed topics that I would not normally talk about, like on my Instagram or like ever. So yeah, it was nice to give people insight into myself and my views and what I've done.
Without giving too much.
Yeah, I don't give too much away.
On that note, let's wrap up and go get a drink. Cool. Thank you.
Bye.